This is Pauline Jennings, and you're listening to Musician Talk. My guest this week is Californian turned Minnesotan Cassandra Cole. Cassandra is a songwriter, visual artist, actor, athlete, and mother. As demonstrated in her new album, Steps, she specializes in highly creative songwriting that showcases life's rich tapestry. Her songs are a mix of raw, intense passion with an eclectic modern edge. Her album dives into some heavy subjects in Cassandra's life, and I have a chance to talk with her about a couple of those songs today. It's time to hear more about her music and her musical journey. It's time to talk with Cassandra Cole. Welcome, Cassandra, to Musician Talk.
Hi, so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. And it's a fortuitous time to have you on because you're going to be, people in Northfield will have a chance to see you kick off DJJD on September 8th at 8 o'clock down at the tent, I believe.
Yes.
That's really cool. So people put it on your calendar. Let's start and dig right into your musical journey and when you started singing, when you started writing songs, and kind of take us up to today.
Sure. As you said, I grew up in California, and ever since I can remember, maybe around 6, I started writing. It started with poetry and art, and it was a way to express myself and cope throughout my journey with moving across the country and just some of the heartbreak that we all experience.
Wow. So then when you started writing, I guess I'm just curious as to do you have copies of what you wrote back then? Do you still have them?
I have some demos that will never see the light of day. Oh my goodness. I know I have some on cassettes, like those old school tapes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I've got some of those from when I went down to Nashville and then sang along with tracks when I was 20.
Yeah.
And they're precious to have as you age, right? So you moved, how old were you when you moved to Minnesota?
Okay, so I have to do the math. I went to Georgia, moved here from Boston in 2000.
Oh, wow.
So 18.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. And so how did your musical journey continue when you got here to Minnesota?
Sure. Yes. I had multiple bands, a rehearsal space off of Broadway, and just tried really hard to get that off the ground, but I really struggled.
Yeah.
Yes.
What were the struggles?
Sure, just finding the correct musicians that worked with the sounds I was trying to convey. But to be very honest, at that age, it's really hard to find people that will show up and stick around and perform.
You'd be looking for musicians in their 40s.
Basically, yes.
That works a little better at that stage. So let's take a step back. Before you came to Minnesota, when did you start singing and know that you liked to sing and that you sounded really good? Do you remember that?
I just remember it's always been a part of me, and it's something I have to do. When I see people perform, it always gives me chills, and there's something that tells me I need to be up there. I need to be doing this. So I don't know. There's not really a moment. I just always have. But after I had kids, I took a hiatus. I have 2 sets of twins. And
my goodness.
Yes, they keep me busy.
I bet.
But I knew I needed to return. It was my identity of who I am.
Sure. A lot of people took a break. A lot of women particularly took breaks, but men too when they started having kids and they had little kids, because it's really, really hard to find the time. And to really, unless you do it full time and that's your job, it's hard to justify taking the time when your household's so busy, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. So around 5 years ago, I sang at my best friend's birthday party as a surprise. And it took off from there.
Wow.
Angelina's Kitchen in Woodbury then hired me once a week to sing jazz music.
Awesome.
At their establishment. So I went out and bought my first amp, I put it on top of the piano. Oh my gosh, I can't even say that out loud. But you know what? You just got to throw things against a wall and hope something sticks and learn from it as you grow.
Do you play?
Oh, just chords.
It's just chords.
Yes.
Yeah, enough to practice what
enough
you're doing.
to write music.
Got it. Okay. So you had a piano player or a guitar player with you, and
A
you're doing
piano
those
player.
jazz gigs. Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. So that gave you probably some confidence to step back into it too. When
It did. It was definitely a journey to be back on stage and grow with vocal control and how I wanted to proceed.
So you had this jazz gig, and your songs are not jazz, I would say. Maybe there's some influence in there, but I would say they're not. When did you start to create your own sound? Because it's very unique and distinct.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't know. I've always had a unique pattern to how I write and how my musical, beats, as you would say. I don't know. It's just kind of keeps morphing.
Yeah.
Yes. And jazz
cool.
and blues will always be a part of my soul.
Sure. Right. So, okay. Your songwriting process and your beats and all that, you have more produced sound. And I guess by produced, I mean, there seems to be sounds in there that aren't live, instruments. And so you're using programmed sounds and programmed beats, and it's really so creative and so interesting. So I want to kind of have you take me through, and the audience through, how do you create that kind of sound? What do you start with?
Sure. Well, I always start with my guitar on my couch. That's where all my musical babies stem from. I've worked with Jason Hafer. We used to have a duo together, and he moved to Portland, and I have a ton of family out there. So we continued our working relationship, and he produced my album.
Okay.
So a lot of the music, most of it, all of it, on my album are real instruments.
No way.
Yes.
Wow. Oh
yes.
my goodness. I'm just blown away by that, because I think of mixing those tunes must have been a monster job.
Oh, yes, they were for Jason. I didn't do that. And for Nathan Horst did the mixing, and Jeremy Denigan for a couple of the songs. There's definitely elements that aren't live music that are integrated throughout.
Mm-hmm. Right. And effects too.
Yes, we wanted the fullness to get immersed in the song, and sometimes the rawness of live music wasn't as polished as I wanted.
Right. Explain that a little bit more.
Sure. I wanted to mix kind of almost when you enter a magical journey. I'm trying to think of a way to kind of, of that.
Were you saying that you wanted it to be more raw, or that it was too raw and you wanted to take the edges off?
I wanted to mix.
Oh, God.
I wanted it to go from edge to polish to kind of working through the steps of your everyday life, which is what the album was about.
And the album is called Steps.
It is, right? Yes.
And this first song that we're going to talk about is the title song on the album. And so why don't you tell me a little bit about the specifics of creating this song and also writing it?
Sure.
Writing lyrics, I guess.
Yes. It started when I was in the studio, and I was done recording my demos. I start with demos so I can pull from there.
What do you put on your demos? Is it just guitar and voice?
Sure. Yes, guitar and voice.
So you start with that.
So I have them all professionally laid down. So then when I do take them to the band or to my producer, it has a polished sound.
Nice.
And we can plug that in a Logic or system that we use and, take it from there.
And who decides what other instruments to have on there?
Sure. Jason Hafer is
Got it.
a mastermind at that.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. So Jeremy at the time, he picked up his guitar just noodling, and I just wrote steps. It just came out. The whole song came out.
And what is it about?
Sure. I've been through a lot in my life, and I just have learned was suffering with depression and working your way through the darkness, that you need to learn how to take the next step, even if you don't see the end yet. You just know that you'll understand it once you reach it.
And so would you say writing these songs and writing lyrics is one of those steps?
Absolutely. It's therapy. And for those few years where this album really derived from was the darkest I had ever walked through. And I'm lucky to be here. And
we're happy to have you here.
Oh, thank you. So yes, the album just carries me through that.
That's really intensely beautiful. That the power of music and the power of art and the power of expression, how that can be so healing to somebody, and also expiating. It can get it off your shoulders a little bit, perhaps, right? And so this song in particular, what did this help you through? If you want to talk about it.
Oh, sure. Not a problem. Well, my husband's a recovering alcoholic, and during that time of him finding sobriety, my father-in-law went missing.
Oh, my God.
Yes, he went hunting, and we never have found him.
Oh, Cassandra, my God.
Yeah, so when he and I and everybody was out looking for him, we lost our job. And I have 2 sets of twins, and I struggle with mental health, depression, and my whole world fell apart, and I wasn't quite sure where I'd end up and what that would look like. And I would find myself just alone in my house with my guitar.
I'm so glad you had that guitar. And I'm so glad that you had this outlet to help you through that incredibly difficult time. Wow. And it just speaks to the power of music and why we do it, right?
Yes.
Because it's usually not for the big bucks.
No. Yeah.
Okay, so let's turn to this first song, and this is "Steps," the original title track from the original. I'm sorry, let me start that over. Let's listen to "Steps," an original written and performed by my guest today, Cassandra Cole. Here it is. It's on YouTube. We're going to figure out what's going on with that technical issue, and Wendy's going to try to find that song. I don't know if we can play it from Spotify. Could you do that? Well, let's continue talking, and once Wendy has this ready to go, we will play it. And this is good anyway, because I wanted you to tell me who's all playing on this exactly. Who's playing
Sure.
what.
Yes. So on Steps, we have Jason Hafer, who produced, and he also played synth and bass. We have Kyle Tennis on acoustic guitar, which they all did a phenomenal job, but there's something with that opening guitar that hits my heart deep. He was able to capture all those moments.
Yes. It's such a great guitar sound that he got. I mean, it's just so crisp and clear. And oh, wow. Yeah. Really, really great.
Yes. And then Jesse Proctor, drums and percussion. And then, yes, vocals. And
great. And then...
Big Jess. There's a rap.
Oh, yes, of course. Yes. I love that section.
Yes. Big Jess from The Unknown Prophets.
Okay.
He wrote that segment and did a phenomenal job.
How did you meet him and get him involved with this project?
Sure. Actually, I was working with Matt Madison, who's going to be coming out with his own EP or album soon. And I'm featured on his tracks. And when I went in to work in the studio, it was Big Jess.
Oh, was there?
Yes. So while I was in there, I actually recorded vocals for 2 other artists. Wow. Yes. And we've been friends. And I reached out to him and thought it'd be a good fit for the debut track.
Oh, no kidding. It's
Yes.
so cool. So, I mean, what gave you the inspiration and thought of putting rap right into this song?
It needed it.
It needed it. It just
Yes.
spoke to you. You knew it.
It really did. Jason and I talked about, I felt the vocals had filled what I wanted it to for the song, and it needed something punchy and surprising. And
It is surprising.
Spoken word.
Try playing it from this.
Sure. We're going to try playing this song called Steps from a different source here.
Tried so hard to get up today. It's all the same. Penciled you in at 4, didn't make it in again. Watched you into the house, couldn't get you. Without you, the only one. When my legs begin to shake, be that woman. Watched you into the house, couldn't get you. Who am I?
Navigating through the sunny days and the pouring rain can bring some of us enormous pain. Sometimes you try and get out of bed but don't have the will to. You hide your feelings inside cause you think no one would feel you. Anxiety builds so high it feels like it could kill you. At times your faith in God doesn't seem to fulfill you. How can you cope and be strong when all hope is gone? How can you see the light when everything is going wrong? Life can move at a chaotic pace, and suddenly you stumble and fall flat on your face. When you have no desire to take the steps, say a prayer, take a breath. You might think that you are, but you're never alone, cause I'll be there to lend a hand wherever you go.
I see you, do you see me too? Up and down, will you come out? I see
This is Pauline Jennings, and you're listening to Musician Talk. You just heard Steps, the title track from Cassandra Cole's debut album of original tunes. Cassandra is my guest today. There's just so much going on, and each thing has its own space, and that just speaks so highly of your producer. It's incredible how it seems that he was able to read your mind. And during the song, we were talking a little bit, and we'll get to that in a second. But I do want to say the percussion, the crispness of it is just wonderful. And your voice is, your range, first of all, seems to be huge. And it's ethereal at times and then really rich at other times. It's really beautiful.
Thank you.
And it's a beautiful song, too. I asked Cassandra, I hear that the different voices kind of coming in, and how do you decide to do that? And she was saying well, you go ahead and say.
Sure. In the studio, it had to have been around 3 a.m. I don't know. We worked through the night for about 4 days. It was insane. But yes, all of a sudden I interjected. I'm like, what if, like steps vocally, I'm coming in, steps. And, oh, yes. And he's able to, put that into fruition.
That is awesome. And how he got to know what you liked for sounds and effects, which is all just as important as the instruments of what you're going to do with those instruments and the voice. And take me through what he did for that, which I think is just a great idea. I think every producer should do this.
Yes. He came over and put together a playlist of about 50 to 100 songs. Felt like a million. But he told me, be prepared. It's going to be a while. And we went through every single song to pinpoint exactly what I liked and didn't like. And so he was able to use the musical language to express exactly what I desired to create.
That's just brilliant. And I would say, even for not a producer to do that, but if you're a musician going into the studio, that you have maybe not 50 to 100, but a handful of tunes that you can say what you like about the reverb, what you like about the effects, what you like about the mix, what you like about, even just the choice of having how forward you want the vocals, all that stuff.
Absolutely.
If you know that before you go in the studio,
yes, it's really,
up.
Really important, because I'd worked with people in the past who are amazing, but they would take something that I've written and give it back to me. Say, here you go. Right. And I felt I was lost in that translation, because they're my musical babies.
Right.
So he did, yes, an amazing job through every step, checking with me, is this what you like? Or yes.
That's just terrific. Wonderful song. Thank you for that. We're going to move on to the quote of the week. And I read somewhere about you that either it was an inspiration or somebody said that you sounded like Fiona Apple. So I went ahead and looked to see if she had anything to say.
Yes, I love her rawness and her deep vocals.
Yeah. And
the way she transcends with her soul. It just has always really affected me.
Yeah, she puts it in her songs, doesn't she? That soul is there. You can hear it. What she said is, the way I feel about music is that there is no right and wrong, only true and false. So what do you first think of when you hear that quote?
Well, there's no right or wrong, because it comes from you, and we're all trying. And we're all broken people trying to make sense, whether it's through music or just getting through our day. So you have to get out the bad to piece together the good. So that's what I take from it, is you have to try and you have to fail so you can grow and become the artist that you're intended to be.
Exactly. I love that. I feel like a little bit that there's a difference between right and wrong and true and false.
Absolutely.
And so there's ways to do music wrong, I guess, in that as you are failing before you get there, you listen to yourself and go, well, that was wrong. That was really wrong. But the pursuit of getting there is never false. I think, right? It's always truth, what you're trying to do. And who knows when you actually finally get to your real truth for a song or for art. But,
and the falseness I really see as success is a lie. Because what we're told is that unless you get to that 1% or whatever that may be, that we're not really musicians, or we're not successful. And then we measure ourselves against that. And It's
Right.
really difficult to find yourself throughout that. But when you realize that success is the journey, is the right and the wrongs, then we are successful.
Oh, Cassandra, that's just really beautifully said. I love that a lot. And I think we'll leave that quote right there because you just said it. Future, what are you thinking of? Speaking of, where are you going to go with this stuff, ma'am? It's not any good if you don't sell it, right? That kind of whole attitude, which is false. What do you want to do with this? What do you want to do with your music?
Sure. I've been very fortunate to work with Rock the Cause record label. I signed with them.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Scott's an amazing person and has the expertise and the drive to walk alongside me in this journey and really try to get this music out there. I love the organization because they're a nonprofit, and a portion of the proceeds from my sales goes towards a charity of my choice, which will be mental health.
Awesome. That's really cool.
Yes.
How did you find out about that?
Through Sarah Harishnik. I hope I said that correctly. I started working with her because I was so overwhelmed by the process of putting together what you needed to put out an album. The EPK and everything that goes underneath that I don't know how to do, and most people don't. And
give me a list. What kind of things? I'm just wondering what you're thinking of.
A really good website. I put together my own.
Oh yeah.
And I did it. You just do, okay, I need this. But I didn't go to school for graphic design, and I don't know what people are looking for when they look at me. So if they want to check out my music, to be valid or professional,
right?
And you just don't know. And I wanted to get to that next level of being more polished and putting down in the ways like an EPK to send out one link that had everything I needed and written, the bios, the mini, the medium.
So it's mostly the promotional stuff that...
Absolutely. And I felt so passionate about the music, which all musicians do, but you have to have the other components. And it's so frustrating. We're our own labels.
Right.
And she was just a huge blessing and introduced me and actually pitched to them without me even knowing. She just felt it would be a really good cause, and she just has a really good heart. And I feel like I'm really surrounded by a great team.
That is really great that you have a team to do that, although you find that you're still doing most of the work yourself.
I'm doing a ton, which we all do.
Yeah.
And still learning. And honestly, I don't know. I have dreams, and I have, those little steps that I'm trying to work towards the bigger picture. But I do feel strongly the harder you work, it definitely gets you to those achievable goals.
Yeah. I can't remember who was talking about being in Nashville and trying to make it there.
Oh.
If you stop for a second,
yes,
it's done. You're done. I mean, you're going because everybody else you're competing against is continuing to go 100%. And that's not just for like a couple weeks. That's for years that you have to be basically, if that's what you want to do, make it big in Nashville. Mm-hmm. It's a journey that you have to be dedicated to putting everything else aside, it seems to me. And so having that balance in your life and still being able to make money or be successful, I mean, okay, I don't mean to put those two things together.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. If this is what you want to do for the way to bring in money, if that's what you need to do to be successful, I don't even know where I was going with that, but it's a dedication that takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, and thank God you have the passion for it, because you got to do a lot of stuff you don't want to do.
Oh my goodness, yes. To think 5 years ago when I re-entered the scene, to be sitting here with both of you right now talking about an album that I wrote and has been debuted, it is an answer to a prayer, a dream that has been accomplished. So thank you so much for your support.
Absolutely.
Local music and for myself. So thank you.
You're welcome. And it is pretty astounding that you've gotten all that done in 5 years, and how professional you sound, and the professional packet that you have that's a lot in 5 years. So you've been busy. on top of your 2 sets of twins.
Yes, I have.
Wonder Woman is what you could
Oh, goodness,
say.
I would not call me that, but...
Well, maybe we all are. We just don't want, we never recognize it
It's
within
true.
ourselves. I recognize it in you. I recognize
Thank
it in you. So let's move to the second song called Shattered. This is a very, very different sounding song, except for some of the production stuff. I feel there's a marriage there, so that it does go together, but the style of song is very different.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about this and the creation of this song.
Sure. I had a really, really bad day and I was growing and learning about boundaries. And it was this pivotal moment that I realized that with codependency, you lack a lot of boundaries, and I was starting to establish those. So Shattered is about that journey in a lot of ways. My husband's a recovering alcoholic, and just some of the relationships I had were very toxic.
Yeah.
So I was learning how to label those and work through those emotions.
So is Shattered about shattering those boundaries, or is Shattered about how you're feeling, or both?
Everything. But I'd say a big component is recognizing the unhealthiness of a situation before it happens, and basically faking your way through it of, okay, I know that this isn't good for me, and I see that, and it's a declaration, I won't be used to fix you.
I won't be used to fix you. Mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah. We all have to do that work ourselves, don't we, for it to really work?
Yes.
Yeah. And that's certainly one of the tenets of being in recovery is doing your own healing instead of depending on others.
Yes.
So, who is playing on this song? Who's playing on this song?
Sure. It was produced by Jason Hafer,
Yeah.
mixed by Nathan Horst, and everything was mastered by Hans DeKlein.
Okay.
In California. And then Beth Goodfellow was on drums, who's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And
no kidding. The percussion in this is really, really
oh my
cool,
goodness.
really
She was
awesome.
just on Jimmy Kimmel.
Wow.
Yes. Andre Rodriguez, keyboards and synths, and Jason played guitars, bass, and vocals as well.
Oh, it's just, there's so much in this song. It's got so many different layers. And again, you sound really, really wonderful. And it's very an emotional song. Even though the first one was slower and a little bit more lyrical, this one really hit me emotionally. What genre would you put this in? I like to label things for some reason. My brain wants to do it.
I know, it's so hard.
I mean, what would you call this? Americana, electronic rock, pop?
I feel like every song has its own
It does.
little genre, but mixed together with my vocal stylings that are pretty much the same. I don't know, indie pop rock.
Yeah, okay.
With influences from
All
other
over.
genres, yes.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. So this is Cassandra Cole is live in the KYMN studio with me today, and it's time to listen to Shattered, a song from her debut album called Steps. And this is just a day of technical issues. So while Wendy works on that, we're going to talk about, let's do best gig, worst gig. And after that, we'll listen to this song. Oh, goodness.
Pass me by. Don't have the time. I see you ruin all those thoughts, disillusion. You want, but you can taste my old hand. I'm broken, trying to glue the pieces back, but I'm not the resolution. Yeah, shattered. I won't be a fix again. Yeah, shattered.
This is Musician Talk, and I'm your host, Pauline Jennings. My guest today is Cassandra Cole. You just heard her perform her original tune called Shattered. It's a recording from her debut album called Steps. What a cool song. I mean, just ultimately cool, right?
Thank you.
Very cool. And your voice, you get some of those high notes up in the sky. That's great. I'm wondering, so when you have a producer in the studio and you're an engineer or an engineer, and you leave for that day and you're in the mixing stage, the producer will give you things to listen to and see if you like what's going on so far in the mixes. Like you said, he checked with you every step of the way.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how many steps it took back and forth to get this to where it is, because there's so much and it's mixed so beautifully. You know, with so much sound going on in that song, it could be very messy. I mean, you could have a lot of things in kind of the same, megahertz range, whatever, fighting with each other. But this is not. Everything has its own space. So how many times did you go back and forth?
And Nathan Horst did a phenomenal job mixing.
It's
I'm saying this
incredible.
whole album took a few years. It
Wow.
wasn't. And I flew to Oregon, so I was in studio with him, day and night. I didn't sleep. I was falling asleep on the ground. And then you'd be like, all right. I'm like, oh, all right. Yes, I will sound alive and be vocally on point. But what was your question?
Well, your ears get fatigued too, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's just that, well, I mean, if you were there in the studio with them while they were mixing, then you had a chance to right there listen and say, okay, I like this, I don't like this, pull this up, pull that down, all those kind of things. But that takes forever.
That was your question. Yes, we went back and forth a million. It was daily. What do you think of this? And I'm always, it's hard because I hear things, he hears things, and I'd hear back, and it was either, it would be, oh my gosh, that's it. It's beautiful. Or I'd be, I don't know. Like that breath and steps. I know we're talking about Shattered right now. At first, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't want it to sound provocative and take away from the true essence of that particular song. But once the mixing's done and you hear things in balance, it changes. So there was definitely a reliance upon Jason of no, this is what you want and what you've been communicating. It will happen during the mixing process.
And it sure did. And when you have that kind of time, you don't have some kind of timeline, and you take 2 years to mix down that many songs, this is what you get. I mean, you get something just so tasty, and where everything is just perfectly in its place. And
I'm very type A when it comes to the music, not in life, because I'm like, whatever. In music, I'm like, it has to be this way. But also, when you don't have money to put an album together, I pieced every song together, nickel and diming.
Wow.
So it was, all right, how much do I owe this instrumentalist? And then I'd come up with that money, and then I'd have to wait. And so I wasn't able to go in, which I think is more typical, to knock it out in a week, and also COVID hit. So we did everything back and forth virtually, which added a unique element to everything. And I don't know, a different flair.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like you said before, everything kind of happens for a reason. It feels like.
And the timing. And
exactly. So, best gig, worst gig. What do you got for me?
Right.
First of all, before we get to this, speaking of gigs, how do you take something like what we just heard and play and do that live? Do you have loops behind you? I mean, without a huge band.
I've been very fortunate to have a band that supports me.
Got it.
Amazing. Peter, Paul, Mark, and I always say we're missing a Luke or
or Mary, one or the other.
Oh my goodness, exactly. Yes, they're phenomenal. Learning all the instrumentation. We've started working with tracks now. It's still something that we're smoothing out just to add the fullness of
because you have all that undertone stuff that to have some kind of track playing with you when you're playing live. Yeah.
A keyboard, that person cannot fill all those synth parts.
Right.
So,
you could have 4 or 5 synth parts in a song, and then you have one synth player on stage. How do you cover all that?
Exactly.
And that's why you have tracks, musical tracks that you play along with. in order to get that fullness. And a lot of drummers have loops or tracks that they will trigger with their, and so that's done all the time.
Yes.
So best gig, worst gig.
Okay.
How much have you played out?
Oh my goodness. A lot. I think I've maybe had 100 gigs.
Wow.
Maybe more if I just haven't logged them all. I don't know over the course of my life, but
Sure.
I'd say over the past 5 years.
Got it.
I try to play once a month, and sometimes that's a lot more. I think I had 3 gigs the other week. But I do have to find balance in my life and what I'm capable of doing. And yes.
Definitely, and that changes as your kids will age, and as you get more traction too, and so there'll be some push and shove. Do you have a worst gig?
Oh yes, we're back to this
We're back
question.
to that.
Yes,
That's right.
You know what? I would say my best gig was my first release party for "Leave Me Alone." I have 2 singles out, and it was so petrifying for me. It'd been so long, and it's scary how you'll be judged, or is this good enough, or what am I doing?
Right.
I'm a mom. I don't know. And I'm not just singing with my guitar. And it was overwhelming, but I came out on fire.
Oh, good for you.
Oh, I was crazy on stage, and we sold out, and it was this huge uproar. And during release parties, you have your people that love you there.
Yeah.
So they're in it. It's this intimacy, and it was very validating to me.
Good.
To continue, and just I was really proud of myself. So
Good.
I'd say that was my best gig. My worst gig would be right when I moved here. I performed at the Artist Quarter.
Okay.
I love that venue.
That's a room. That's a great venue.
Amazing venue. I actually had my release party for my album there, Full Circle.
Cool.
At KJ's Hideaway. So my drummer was really late. I wasn't sure if he'd show up at all. So I thought I was going to die. Full room. And I actually had somebody from Universal that came there to check me out.
Oh.
And he showed up on some substances.
Oh.
And it was definitely my worst gig.
Wait, the drummer or the
drummer.
guy from Universal?
No, well, I didn't really have the opportunity to speak to him very much after, but he started playing in the wrong timing. I don't know if it was 4/4 timing or 3/4 timing, but it threw the whole thing off. Oh. We only had one song. Oh. And the band followed the drummer, and it changed the song, so it wasn't the song anymore. Oh. And so I am up there as a performer by myself, and what was I supposed to do? So I just sang my song separate from the band because that wasn't the song. And I'm really quick on my feet with writing songs, but to write a full song really well, not knowing where it's going, because they didn't either. And he was sloppy, not with the click track.
Oh no.
I performed. I smiled. I looked around the room.
You pretended nothing was wrong.
Oh yeah, you would have no idea if you muted everybody else. I should have said everybody
That's
leave.
all.
You know what? I would this day and age, if my band would never do that, but I would tell everybody, you know what? I'm going to do this one a cappella, and I would send everybody off. And I would just do it.
You have the confidence
but that's
now.
me now.
Right.
Back then, I was a kid and beyond overwhelmed. So then I left off the stage, and I brutally cried backstage. Like I couldn't breathe. And then I sucked it up. I wiped my tears. This happened. I couldn't control it. I did my best. At the end of the day, we're professionals. Yeah. And I walked out and, heard the, "Oh, thank you so much for having me." And I'm like, yeah, okay, that did happen. That's okay. I can take it. And then the guy from Universal gave me his card and said that I have something, but, I need a lot of development.
Got it.
And it was a really sweet way to be turned down and rejected.
Yes.
But I knew it. And I also felt like that was meant to be. And I know that sounds
you weren't
crazy,
ready.
but I
It
was
wasn't-
not ready.
Right.
And ready for what, really?
Exactly.
That's the thing.
Yeah. Exactly. So to wrap up here, and this has just been such a great conversation, Cassandra.
I really enjoyed
wonderful.
it. Thank you again for having me.
Absolutely. So to tell everybody again, 8 p.m. on September 8th, down at the tent for DJJD Days, you can hear Cassandra live. And that's
with
very
Mark
exciting.
Ross.
With Mark Ross. That's right. We all know
the 3
Mark.
to 13. Yes, he was
Awesome.
amazing to invite me.
That's great. And he is amazing. And he's a really great at another person who's really great at bringing musicians together and supporting musicians.
Amazing.
Really amazing. Where else can where can we find your music? You've mentioned it before, but let's just say it again. And then any other gigs that you have coming up.
Sure. I'm on all the platforms, all the things. Social media, I'm at CassandraCole.me. You can find my link tree right from Instagram, which will connect you to Spotify, Apple Music, my website, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, if you just put Cassandra Cole, if you just type that in Google,
it pops right up.
A lot of that will come up, and certainly your website, and that'll take you everywhere.
Which is www.CassandraColemusic.com.
Easy.
Yeah.
Nice, easy to remember. Do you have, what do you have in the next month or so?
Oh, my
other
goodness.
Than DJJ? Okay, 2 weeks?
I need to look at my events calendar.
Well,
I'm so bad about that.
That's
One thing
fine.
I didn't write down. I know I'm going to be back at Sociable Cider for an acoustic set of my album, which I'm really looking forward to. The Defeat of Jesse James Day.
Yep.
I'll be back I'll be at Astor Cafe with Colin Bracewell, which I'm incredibly excited. He's phenomenal. He just sold out 7th Street entry.
Wow.
And we actually crossed paths at the Food Truck Festival with the Stillwater Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, that's really
And
cool.
yes, we chatted. He graduated from the same school that my kids go to, if that doesn't age you. But yes, we're going to be there very shortly. So check out Astor Cafe's.
Sure. And your
as
schedule's at Cassandra Cole Music.
It is. It's all there.
Okay. Awesome. So look up her schedule there and find where you can check out her music live. So thanks again, Cassandra. Wonderful conversation.
Thank you. This has been an amazing way to start my Sunday.
Awesome. Awesome. Take care. Many thanks to Cassandra for joining me today to share her journey with us and to give us some insight into her highly personal and creative music. Thanks also to Wendy Nordquist, and so many, many thanks to you, the listeners of Musician Talk on the One, KYMN. Have a joyous day.